As the children of Israel are getting ready to enter the Promised Land, God gives instructions for what they were to do when they took possession. One of these tasks was to set up cities for the Levites, because they wouldn't have an inheritance in the land like the rest of the tribes. They were instead to be allotted cities in each of the tribal lands. In addition to this, according to Joshua, 6 of these cities were to be set aside as cities of refuge. Look at Numbers 35, 9 through 12. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall appoint cities to be cities of refuge for you, that the manslayer who kills any person accidentally may flee there. They shall be cities of refuge for you from the Avenger, that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation in judgment." Now, anyone who accidentally caused the death of another person could flee to one of these cities of refuge to escape judgment by the Avenger. Once there, he could plead his case before the congregation that the death was accidental and not murder. Now, why couldn't the manslayer plead his case where the death occurred? Who is the avenger he needs to flee from? And why are the cities of refuge chosen from among the Levitical cities? I'm Dan Cathcart, and this is Words from Our Father. Before answering these questions, we need to look at the consequences of shedding blood. The first person who shed blood was Cain when he killed his brother Abel. The consequences of this act were that he was cut off from the land. Genesis 4, 10 through 12. And he said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and vagabond you shall be on the earth." Cain was cut off from the ground. The ground would no longer produce fruit for Cain. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, but Cain was a farmer, and his offering to God was from the produce of the land. The word strength is the Hebrew word koach, number 3581 in the Strong's Concordance, meaning vigor, force, strength, and substance. Now, in not producing fruit for Cain, the land did not give of its life-sustaining vigor. Cain stated that the punishment was more than he could bear, and that God had driven him from both the ground and from God's presence. Genesis 4, 13 through 14. And Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and vagabond on the earth, and it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me." From the time of Cain on, violence increased among mankind. It defiled the earth and even caused an increase in violence among the animals. Genesis 6, 11 through 13. The earth was also corrupted before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth." The word corrupt is the word shakath, number 7843, meaning to decay, ruin, or corrupt. Mankind's violence caused the earth to become decayed, ruined, and corrupt. After the flood destroyed the whole earth, God declared that mankind would no longer corrupt the earth through his violence. The shedding of blood must be atoned for by shedding the blood of the one who caused the death. Look at Genesis 9, 5 through 7. "Surely for the lifeblood I will demand a reckoning. From the hand of every beast I will require it, and from the hand of man. From the hand of every man's brother I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed, for in the image of God he was made. And as for you, be fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply in it. There are a couple of interesting insights that can be gained from this passage when we examine the original Hebrew words. The word translated as man is the Hebrew word Adam, referring to the first man of all mankind. God will require a reckoning from Adam for all the blood that is shed. Second, the first murder was when Cain killed his brother Abel and started the downward spiral of the corruption of the earth. The phrase, "at the hand of every man's brother," is apparently a reference to this first murder. Matthew Poole comments on the possible meaning of this phrase. As an aggravation of the crime, because the man slain was the brother of the murderer, all men being of one blood, Acts 17:26, and having one Father, even God, Malachi 2:10, and Adam too, upon which account all men are frequently called one another's brethren, as is manifest from Genesis 26:31, 29:4, Leviticus 19:17, 25:14, and 26:37, and from many other places of Scripture. In essence, all murder, or even accidentally killing someone, is done to a brother repeating the transgressions of Cain. Death entered the world through Adam. Then, through his son Cain, bloodshed of brother by one's brother entered the world. This shedding of blood must be atoned for. Only when bloodshed is properly atoned for will the earth give of its strength and yield its fruits, then man will be fruitful and multiply. This is evident in the instructions that God gave to Moses about what to do when a person is killed, and the killer is unknown. Deuteronomy 21, verse 1. If anyone is found slain, laying in the field in the land which the Lord your God is giving you to possess, and is not known who killed him, the elders of the city and the priest are to kill a heifer near running water. Then they are to wash their hands over the heifer and declare that they did not kill the victim, nor did they know who did. Deuteronomy 21, 6-8. And all the elders of the city nearest to the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer, whose neck was broken in the valley. Then they shall answer and say, Our hands have not shed this blood, nor have our eyes seen it. Provide atonement, O Lord, for your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, and do not lay innocent blood to the charge of your people Israel, and atonement shall be provided on their behalf for the blood. Now, even an accidental death cannot be ignored. For strict justice, the one who killed, even accidentally, forfeits his life. But God is a God of righteous judgment and mercy. The one who kills accidentally can flee from the Avenger and seek asylum and judgment in a city of refuge. But who is the Avenger that the manslayer must flee from? The Hebrew word translated as Avenger is Gaal, number 1350, meaning Redeemer, to be next of kin, Avenger, Deliverer, Redeemer, or Revenger. A Redeemer and an Avenger seem to be at odds with each other. So we have to take a closer look at the seemingly conflicting meanings of this word. As Redeemer, Gaal is the one who can redeem the property of a kinsman who has fallen into debt, up to and including buying the relative out of servitude. Look at Leviticus 25, 24-25. And in all the land of your possession you shall grant redemption of the land. If one of your brethren becomes poor and has sold some of his possessions, and if his redeeming relative comes to redeem it, then he may redeem what his brother sold. The kinsman redeemer is also the one who would marry the widow of his deceased relative to provide sons for him, so his name would continue. In the book of Ruth, Boaz is the Gaal, or kinsman redeemer, who restores the line of Naomi's husband, Elimelech. Ruth 2, verse 20. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed is he of the Lord, who has not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead." And Naomi said to her, "The man is near of kin to us. He is of our redeemers." Now David declares that God himself is the Redeemer of Israel. Psalms 19, verse 14. "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer." As an avenger, the Gaal brings justice to his murdered kinsman. Because blood is required for shedding blood, the close relative of the victim is required to shed the blood of the person who murdered his relative. Numbers 35, 19 through 21. The revenger of blood himself shall kill the murderer. When he meets him, he shall kill him. And if he stabs him from hatred or hurls at him by lying in wait so that he dies, or in hatred strikes him with his hand so that he dies, he who struck him shall surely be put to death. He is a murderer. The revenger of blood will kill the murderer when he meets him. Now, while David extols God as the Redeemer of Israel, Ezekiel describes God as the avenger of Israel's blood that was shed by Edom. Now remember, Edom is the nation founded by Jacob's brother Esau. God convicts Edom of shedding the blood of his brothers. Ezekiel 35, 5 through 7. "Because you have had a never-ending hatred, and have shed the blood of the sons of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord Jehovah, I will yield up to you blood. The blood shall pursue you. Since you have not hated blood, even blood shall pursue you. So I will make Mount Seir a ruin, and cut off from it the one passing through and the one returning." So the avenger of blood is to kill the person who murdered his kinsman. But what about the person who caused a death accidentally? Now, this person is not a murderer, but he did shed the blood of another person. He is to flee from the avenger of blood and seek judgment from the congregation. Now remember, the cities of refuge are Levitical cities, and the inhabitants are Levites. Now, why is this the case? The Levites are charged with enacting sober judgment and teaching God's Torah. Leviticus 10, 9 through 11. "Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that you may distinguish between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean, and that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them by the hand of Moses." As Moses is giving the commandment to establish the cities of refuge, the children of Israel are still encamped in the wilderness with the tabernacle in the center, surrounded by the Levites. The Levites provide a type of safety zone around the tabernacle. They were given to Aaron and his sons to serve them and the children of Israel. Numbers 18, 2 through 3. "And bring your brothers also of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, with you, so that they may be joined to you and minister to you, you and your sons with you, before the tabernacle of witness. And they shall keep your charge and the charge of all the tabernacle. Only they shall not come near the vessels of the sanctuary and the altar, so that neither they nor you also may die." When the manslayer flees to a city of refuge, he is fleeing to a Levitical city, where he will first be taken before the congregation and tried to determine if he is guilty of murder or not. Numbers 35, 22 through 24. But if he thrusts him suddenly without hatred, or has thrown something on him without lying in wait, or with any stone with which a man may die, if he does not see and throws it upon him so that he dies, and was not his enemy, neither sought his harm, then the congregation shall judge between the one who kills and the avenger of blood according to these judgments. The manslayer will be judged by the elders at the gates of the city. If it is found that he is not guilty of murder, he will be taken into the city. Look at Joshua 20, verse 4. And he shall flee to one of those cities, and shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city, and shall declare his cause in the ears of the elders of that city. And they shall take him into the city to themselves, and make him a place, and he shall live with them. The manslayer had to remain in the city until the death of the high priest. If he did so, he would be safe from the avenger of blood. Numbers 35, 25 through 28. And the congregation shall send him back to the city of his refuge, to which he had fled. And he shall stay in it until the death of the high priest, who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the one who killed shall at any time come out of the border of the city of his refuge to which he has fled, and if the avenger of blood finds him outside the borders of the city of his refuge, and if the avenger of blood kills the slayer, he shall not be guilty of blood, because he should have remained in the city of his refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the one who killed shall return to the land of his possession. Now the manslayer retains his life, but lives a life set apart from his family and his land. He is in sort of a limbo until after the death of the high priest. Once the high priest dies, he is free to return to his land, and the avenger of blood cannot harm him, or he would then be guilty of shedding blood. However, during the lifetime of the high priest, there is no possibility of ransom being paid to atone for the death and allowing the manslayer to go free. Numbers 35, 31 through 32. And you shall take no ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. And you shall take no ransom for him who has fled to the city of his refuge, to return to live in the land until the death of the high priest. Now money cannot buy or atone for a death. Only the death of the one who shed the blood can atone for the death. Look at Numbers 35, verse 33. So you shall not defile the land in which you are, for blood defiles the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed in it, except by the blood of him that shed it. Now, since only the death of the guilty person can atone for the death they caused, why can the man go free after the death of the high priest? How does the death of the high priest allow the man to go free? So the role of the high priest is to bear the judgment of the children of Israel over his heart. Exodus 28, verse 30. And you shall put in the breast pocket of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the sons of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. Now each year the high priest is to go into the tabernacle by himself and enter the Holy of Holies to make atonement for the children of Israel. Leviticus 16, verse 17. And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goes in to make an atonement in the sanctuary, until he comes out and has made atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. The writer of Hebrews refers to this once-yearly atonement and the need for blood to make atonement. Hebrews 9, 21 through 22. Then likewise he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and the vessels of the ministry. And according to the law, almost all things are purified with blood, and without shedding of blood there is no remission. The word translated as remission is the Greek word aphesis, number 859, meaning freedom. So there is no freedom for the one who sheds blood except by the shedding of his blood. However, the death of the high priest pays the blood debt for the one who accidentally kills someone. The requirement for the death of the one who sheds blood, as God commanded to Noah, is declared by God to be fulfilled by the death of the high priest. The manslayer, who lived cut off from his family and his land, is then restored to both. The cities of refuge, the Avenger of blood, and the high priest all point to Messiah, Yeshua, who Paul calls the final Adam. He is our refuge and the one who we can go to when we sin. He is both our kinsman, redeemer, and the avenger of blood since Abel. By his death as our high priest, we are free from the penalty of death. I'm Dan Cathcart from Moed Ministries International. Shalom and be blessed.